What's going on, guys? It's PokePond back with another video for you. Lots to talk about today. We're seeing insane price changes in the sealed market across all of Scarlet and Violet. We're seeing price changes in Sword and Shield as well. Some of those sets are really running away in price. We will be covering everything today, including all the new sets coming out. We're talking about Mega Evolutions, all the delays coming out with that, Phantasmal Flames, the problems that are happening with the pre-orders. Make sure you subscribe down below to never miss an opportunity. Let's get into it. So we're kicking off, as we usually do, with each and every episode every week by talking about one of my favourite sets, Destined Rivals. It has really just continued to excel right out of the gate. It's just continued to ramp up in price. There's so much demand for this product. Last week it was averaging $329 on TCG Player. Now it's up to $341 with sales as high as $370 as well. So even if we take that $341, which is the most recent but the lower of the last three sales, it's still up a decent amount. So what, it's gone from 329 to 341, so that is what, $12? So $12 price rise, even though it's one of the newest sets, and it just continues to go up in price no matter what people say. So many people waited and they saw the increased price on release and they were just like, oh no, we're going to wait until it drops down in price. It's in print for another 2 years. The demand is just too high for them to keep up with it, and that's why you're seeing price really start to scale up. Now they're starting to move on to another era as well, the sort of mini era of the Mega Evolutions. There's going to be less and less focus on Destined Rivals reprints, and even if they do print a lot of Destined Rivals, I don't think it's going to affect the price that long term. In the short term, it may dip a little bit, but yeah, long term, I think that Destined Rivals is going to have a really good run. I think it's one of the best sets of Scarlet and Violet. So what did we say? It was up about $12. Let's calculate this out properly. Yeah, 329 to 341. So yeah, 12 on 329. Let's calculate it up. 12 divided by 329. So it's up 3.6%, but you've got to remember as well that it is so new of a set and it just continues to do this each week, percent on percent on percent. So what's that going to mean when it hits that 2-year window and we're going to start to see it sunset and start to go out of print? It's going to do really well long term. Me personally, and I think a lot of people in the hobby realise that Destined Rivals, when we're looking at the long term, and we always say, you know, be willing to hold sealed product for at least 2 years at a minimum. You can sell for, like, before 2 years, you can sell whenever you want. It's your product. You can do it whenever you want. But we say that you should be prepared to hold for at least 2 years, just to iron out any potential dips in the market, because generally after 2 years you're going to be in a better position than you were now. So it's just, be aware that in a worst case scenario you might have to hold for at least 2 years. Obviously the longer you hold it the better. I've held products for 7 years, 8 years, 9 years before. So really don't pay too much attention to people. There's a lot of people in this hobby that really want to tell you what to do. At the end of the day, it's your money, it's your product. If you've got the product, you've got the power. That's my new catchphrase. You do what you want with it. You sell at whatever price point you want. Whether that's taking a loss. I've taken a loss on a lot of products that haven't performed as well as I thought they would, because I don't want to wait that time horizon and to have my money tied up in it on sets that perhaps I bought on a bit of an impulse in the hype before it came out. I might have pre-ordered it. A good example of that are some older sets like Vivid Voltage, Battle Styles, Shining Fates. I've taken losses on all of those sets. Even Chilling Reign. I sold Chilling Reign way too early. We can't always get everything right. So sell at what price makes sense to you. And even on those products where I took a loss deliberately so that I could roll the money back into something that I wanted, and then that performed really well as well, which basically evened out and ate out my loss. So something to bear in mind. I think that long term, Destined Rivals is going to be over $1,000 box when we're talking 2 years, 3 years, 4 years from now. How long it'll take to get there, I don't know. That's a lot harder to say. But once it's out of print, 2 years from now, I think it's very unlikely that you're going to ever see boxes at around that time go for $340. I think that it's an absolute no-brainer to still pick up Destined Rivals, even though it's in print right now. That's just my personal opinion. A lot of people will disagree because previously in the hobby, a lot of people will not touch a set for such a high premium, so price over retail, and while it's still in print, obviously, because you have the danger that they'll print loads more boxes of it, the price will crash, etc, etc, which is all true and all possible. I just don't see it happening with Destined Rivals. I think we're entering a new era of the sealed collection and sealed investment space where those rules just don't apply anymore. At least to certain products and certain sets. I do think other products in the Scarlet and Violet era are more likely to be price sensitive, so if they were to get reprints, they're more likely to drop down in value. I think Destined Rivals is less sensitive to that. Obviously, if a load of them hit the shelves tomorrow, the price will drop. I'm confident in that. But, like I said, hold it for at least 2 years, put it away in a cupboard, nice and sealed, put in a storage unit, make sure it's moisture protected, all those kind of things. Look after it, forget about it, and I think you'll do really well on Destined Rivals. I'm still buying into it even at this price point. Last sold on eBay US is $350, about in line with TCG Player, and last sold in the UK is £234 on a new listing tag as well, so it was just bought out on a buy it now instantly for that price. If we scroll down to the next one available, there's some half boxes that are going, some Destined Rivals tins that have just dropped as well. Here we go. Here's another one from yesterday, £250, so a little bit more. And again, buy it now, still got the new listing tag, so just bought out straight away. I think people are realising now that it's a long-term hold, Destined Rivals. I think it's going to do really well long-term. I can see it being $1,000 plus, given enough time for it to get there. I say 2-3 years for it to get to that point, but it could easily excel that and get there a lot sooner. That will just be gravy on the biscuit. So, if you're new to the channel, why am I looking at US prices and UK prices? I live in the UK, but I look at the whole global market. I look at US prices, UK prices, so wherever you are in the world, hopefully you'll get something out of this video. Make sure you subscribe down below to never miss an opportunity. There's a lot going on in the sealed marketplace, and a lot is changing at the moment, and it changes day to day, week to week. So rather than having to track all of this, look how many tabs I've got open, rather than having to track every single product and the whole market, you can just watch this video, put it on podcast style, do it while you're doing some housework or something like that. Get yourself cozy, get yourself a nice drink. The nights are drawing in, things are getting colder. Get yourself nice and comfortable and cozy under a blanket. Pop me on once a week and I will tell you everything that's going on in the market. Let's now talk about Mega Evolutions that's coming out. We don't often talk about sort of new sets that are coming out. We tend to focus more on sort of like the sealed stuff that's already out, or stuff going out of print, those kind of plays that you can make. But we've really got to talk about Mega Evolutions because there's so much going on with the Mega Evolutions release at the moment. If you just Google Mega Evolutions release date, it's going to tell you that it's 10th of October. That is incorrect. It's actually 26th of September, which is 3 weeks away from now. So be ready if you're in the US to try and snap something up on launch day, because Mega Evolutions is going to be a set to watch. I think it's going to perform very well, and it's going to have a very high premium out the gate on day one. It's going to be a heavily scalped set. The price is going to be way over retail, and it's going to get bought out instantly by everyone. The reason why it's saying 10th of October is because that is now the EU European release date, including the UK, also including some other territories like Africa. I think is going to 10th of October as well. I don't know if I've got any African viewers, but I'll let them know. You're also having a delayed release of Mega Evolutions. Pokemon Center has been quite vocal about that it's having issues with being able to supply enough product ready for release date. That's why certain regions, including all of the EU and UK, have been pushed back another 2 weeks to the 10th of October. Even if you are in the US and you're going to get a release drop expected on the 26th of September in 3 weeks time, don't expect there to be much of it around because, again, Pokemon have said that they are having supply issues and are instead going to do what they call a split release, i.e. only half of their intended product is actually going to come out on that release day, and then they have almost like a secondary release date a little bit later where they release another wave of product. This set was already going to do well off of the back of all of the hype in the market at the moment and how well the Pokemon market is doing right now. However, if you bake in supply side issues as well, like I said, even in the US, they're doing a split release. Prices are going to go bananas on day one for Mega Evolutions. So if you see any decent product out in the wild, I'm talking ETBs, booster boxes, booster bundles for anywhere near MSRP, retail price, recommended retail price, whatever your region calls it, it's an instant cop, in my opinion, for Mega Evolutions. There's also Phantasmal Flames as well, which will be Mega Evolutions era set 2, which is going to have the Charizard chase, the Gengar chase. I'll talk about it very briefly now. That is due, again, that's having issues too, because it was meant to get pre-order releases on the Pokemon Center website worldwide earlier this week. Keeps getting pushed back. They had all sorts of problems with like bots and queues and stuff like that. If you're not aware, Pokemon Center, when they do pre-orders, they have like a queue system where everyone sits in a big queue and then it sort of pushes you through. Before the queue even went live, bots were managing to bypass that. Some people were manually able to get around that. I don't know whether that's because of technical issues with their website or whether the bots just somehow got through in the source code. I don't really understand it, but apparently 44,000 orders went through before they were meant to for pre-orders of Phantasmal Flames. So Pokemon Center has cancelled all of those orders. They're investigating it. They're beefing up security or sorting out technical issues on their website as well. So they have pushed back the queue coming out for the pre-orders on that. So keep an eye out for pre-orders on Phantasmal Flames dropping at some point soon on Pokemon Center. Again, that'll be retail price because it's coming from source, and it's going to be a really, really fire set, and it's going to charge a massive premium going forward. So if you can get Mega Evolutions, Phantasmal Flames, anything like that for anywhere near retail price on a pre-order or on a release day, then you're doing very, very well, in my opinion. Now, we need to talk, before we move on, very briefly about the first Mega Evolution set that's going to come out in a couple of weeks. Technically, it's a new era. It's the Mega Evolutions era. It's expected to be a very short era of only a few sets to tide them over until they bring out a whole new generation of Pokemon, new base sets, stuff like that, which will be the Gen 10, Generation 10 era of Pokemon, which is probably going to come out somewhere end of 2026 to start of 2027. So the Mega Evolutions era is like a mini era that's going to carry us through. So technically, the set that's coming out, which is called Mega Evolutions, is going to be a base set. Now, usually base sets are not that well received. They take a while to perform well financially, and they tend to just sit on shelves. Big box stores can't afford to have products sat on shelves, so they start fire selling it, and then all of a sudden it's a race to the bottom. And base sets usually within their first year perform really bad, and you can pick them up for like sub retail, and they perform worse than the sets around them, and they just take longer to grow in value, and then less people put them away, and given time and enough years, then they do perform quite well in the long term. Stuff like Sun and Moon base set is doing quite well now. Sword and Shield base set is doing okay. That kind of thing. Even Scarlet and Violet base is way up over its retail price. So, technically, Mega Evolutions coming out is a base set. I really don't think it's going to be cheap. I think that it's going to continue the buzz that's going on in the market, and it will charge a massive premium on release date. So if you can see any Mega Evolutions product for a decent price coming up soon over the next few weeks, I would personally buy into that and put that away for a couple of years. Let's talk very briefly now then about Black Bolt and White Flare. Black Bolt and White Flare is probably not a great performing set out of the gate. I think that I always had my reservations about Black Bolt and White Flare purely because it's focused around Gen 5 Pokemon. Now, Gen 5 Pokemon do resonate with a lot of people in the age groups and people who played the games and stuff like that. It's more the... I don't want to say younger people in the hobby because they're still in their mid to late 20s, but generally Black Bolt, White Flare resonates with that sort of mid to late 20s age group because they were sort of growing up when the black and white games were out, so they have that attachment more so to the Gen 5 era, whereas people that are slightly older in the hobby like myself and people that are older than me weren't, a lot of us weren't really playing those games at that time. We were more playing your Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, Silver, so Gen 1, Gen 2, so we're a lot more attached to those sort of big Pokemon, the Charizard, Mewtwo's, Pikachu's, Lugia's, Ho-Ohs, that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like the big hero Pokemon from that era is the word that I'm looking for. So Black Bolt, White Flare was always kind of going to have less demand on release, and that was kind of predictable, and you can see that it's just kind of hovering a little bit over retail for the Black Bolt ETB. I did wonder why the Black Bolt ETB is going for a little bit more than the White Flare one, and people quite rightly told me in the comments last week that that is because of the Seismitoad card, which is obviously from the same artist that does the Magikarp, I believe, in Paldea Evolved. Yeah, sorry, I was getting mixed up in my head then with the set names. I always get Paldea Evolved and Paldea Fates mixed in my head because they sound so similar. I mean, obviously I don't. I know the sets very well, but just saying the words sometimes I mix them up in my head. So I just had to double check myself there then before I said it. So yeah, they are just chilling a little bit over retail. $83 seems to be the going rate for a Black Bolt ETB, and a White Flare ETB is going for a little bit less, around $76, a little bit over retail for that. Long term, where do I see Black Bolt and White Flare? I don't think they're bad pickups for the long term. I think that it's one of those sets, well, two sets, that will perform fairly decently and will be middle of the pack with Scarlet and Violet going forward. If you put it away now, I don't think it will do bad in a couple of years' time, and you have the advantage now where people aren't really paying that much attention to it, and you can get it for a fairly decent price right now. So if you can get someone who's maybe dumping it on eBay or something and they're selling it below market, because market already I think is quite fair, but if you see someone just dumping it for a quick sale, maybe 10% below market, you're getting close to that retail price. I don't think it's a bad pickup, to be honest. Personally, I wouldn't be flooding loads of money into it, but I do own a little bit of White Flare. I've been tempted to buy some Black Bolt as well, mainly the booster bundles. You sometimes see some deals on that, particularly if you're buying multiples at a time. I've seen like 10 going loose, not as a display case sealed, because you get 10 sealed in a display case, but I've seen like 10 loose booster bundles going for only a little bit over retail. I have been tempted to move in on that, but then I kind of stopped myself because I was like, well, if you're going to pay around about 300 quid for that, you may as well just save your money and buy some more Mega Evolutions. So that's what I decided doing in the end, but I nearly bought some Black Bolt and White Flare booster bundles in bulk, even though I'm not really a huge fan of the set. So I did stop myself. Let's then move on to Journey Together. Journey Together had this weird phase where it just shot up to like $260 at the start to middle of August, and we did say at that point that it's a little bit overpriced. Not because the set is overpriced, but just in comparison to all of its brothers and sisters around it of other sets in the era. I'd put Journey Together as like mid to like slightly better than average out of all of the Sword and Shield Scarlet and Violet sets. So if your average price right now is around about $230 to $240, probably more about $240 in the middle for an average price for sort of like the average sets in Scarlet and Violet, then I thought 260 was a little bit overpriced, and we've seen that price correction over the last couple of weeks, and I think it's a bit more in line with where it should be. Last sale is $227, which I actually think is a little bit cheap. $227 seems to be a one-off price, maybe someone dumping one. The average price here seems, from the last few days, seems to be around about $240, which I think is where it should be, at around about $240. So again, if you can pick one up from someone dumping it, maybe on eBay or TCG Player, for below $240, I think that that's a pretty good price, because $227 makes it one of the cheapest boxes in the era right now, and I don't think it deserves to be that. I think it should be middle of the pack to a little bit more. I think it should be about 240 to 245. So if you can get anything less than that, I think you're doing well. And again, I think it's one of those sets that if you sit on it for the long term, I think that it will do fine. I am aware that in the US there's a lot of Journey Together like weird products, not weird products, but like not mainline products that are sat around, like sleeved booster packs. You've seen a little bit of like booster bundles and other sort of like blister packs and stuff of Journey Together sat on shelves right now. Again, I wouldn't worry too much, because you're not really seeing booster boxes in those kind of big box stores. So I think buying into the booster box, particularly the enhanced version with the little red on the side here, which comes with the extra promo card, the box topper card, I think that, I mean, look at this price point, $225 for the enhanced booster box version. That is actually a really good price. And there's two that are sold yesterday for $225. I think that that is a little bit underpriced, and I think that that is actually a pretty good play if you're willing to put that away for a little bit. I'm not a huge fan of Journey Together personally. I do own some booster boxes of it, full transparency, but I pick them up for retail or below retail. So it's just a long-term hold thing, and I don't have an emotional attachment to that set. I'm quite happy to sell out of that position once it gets up to around about that $300 range, which it will do given a bit of time. I'm happy to have a bit of patience and hold on to Journey Together for a year, 2 years, until it reaches that price point that I'm happy to sell at, which will be around about that $300 to $350 mark. And I don't think it will shoot up there quickly. It will take some time for it to get there, but I'm confident that it will. Last sold in the UK, we got non-enhanced version here for 168 quid, which is just a little bit over retail. Obviously, if you put on postage as well, it's like 172. Yeah, not that much over retail. That's the non-enhanced version. The enhanced version are a lot rarer here in the EU. I say in the EU, I mean technically we're still in Europe, but we're not in the EU. UK people will understand what I say by that. That sentence will probably perplex some of my American viewers. Let's move on then. Let's talk about the other big boy of the Scarlet and Violet era, Prismatic Evolutions. Prismatic Evolutions, for those of you who aren't aware, or perhaps you're new to the channel, has had a very interesting print cycle. It is one of the heaviest printed holiday sets of the era, and it is still performing very well. But it is, in my opinion, very cheap. It's been hovering around the $100 price mark for quite a long time, just because a lot of product has been hitting the market through places like Sam's Club, Costco, that kind of thing in the US. There has been a lot of product hitting the market. We said for a long time that it's not really going to drop below $100, and if it does, it won't drop for a long time. I.e. it will bounce back up to $100 pretty quickly, because there are a lot of people in the market that are aware of where this set is going to go long term, and anything under $100 now is an absolute steal. I even think anything at $100 now is an absolute steal for the set. If you buy Prismatic Evolutions now for $100 or anywhere around that price point, and you put it away for a couple of years, I can almost guarantee, we can never guarantee anything. Disclaimer, we are all investing in shiny cardboard. It could all go to zero. I think it's very unlikely that it will. But I can almost guarantee Prismatic Evolutions is going to have a really good run, particularly when it goes out of print. There's a lot of people over the last 3-4 months, even people that talk about investments on YouTube, on Instagram and stuff like that. I see them all. Don't think that I don't see you. That really down-talked Prismatic Evolutions and said that it was stupid to buy into it because they are printing it into the ground and it will be retail price or below. We've seen this before, guys. We've seen this with Crown Zenith, and we know what happened with Crown Zenith when it had enough time. Crown Zenith dropped down to a very low price point, and now it is performing very well. We're going to talk about Crown Zenith later on in this episode when we move on to the Sword and Shield era later on in this episode. But Prismatic Evolutions is currently being printed into the ground. This is them printing as much as they can of Prismatic Evolutions, and the printing's only going to get less as time goes on, because as time goes on there's more sets for them to print and there's more sets for them to keep up with. We're moving into a new era now. We're moving into Mega Evolutions era. A lot of their printing is going to be based around that. They're going to be focusing on other things as well, like your Destined Rivals and stuff like that, reprints of that. Prismatic has held healthily at or around $100, and it's actually up this week. It's up now. Regular sales at $104 now, so it's just bouncing off of that $100 price point. And you might say, well, it's actually $105. It's $104.98. And you might say, oh, okay, it's only up $5 on last week. That's a 5% price rise on a set that's currently being printed to basically maximum capacity right now, and it's still raising 5% in a week. Prismatic Evolutions is such a good set, and it is going to perform so well long term, in my opinion. I am still actively buying into Prismatic Evolutions. I hold a lot of it already. I will continue to buy it, and I will continue to increase my position on it. I think that personally is one of the best buys you can buy at the moment in the market, and a lot of people will kick themselves for not buying more of it now when they look back in the future. Let's have a look then at eBay. Last sold on eBay US, $96. Another one for $100, $99, $110, right around that $100 price point. Interestingly, I don't throw shade at anyone, so I won't say their names, but there is a particular person on Instagram that makes a lot of reels that for a long time made a lot of content saying that Prismatic Evolutions buying in at $100 is stupid and it will drop down in price, and wait for MSRP and it will go to below MSRP and stuff like that. They have recently bought in at this price point, and they now have a massive display behind them of Prismatic Evolutions, and it just makes me smile. And I'm not throwing any shade at anyone. I am a super positive person. We can't always get everything right, but this person is claiming now that they actually had them all along, and that they bought them for a much cheaper price point, and they bought them for retail on release. My point to all of this is not to be negative to another person. My point to this is be very careful about who you listen to. There are a lot of people that are making this short form content of shorts and reels and stuff like that that are throwing out bad advice. Now, they might have been right. They've got a chance of being right. It might have dropped down to around about retail price. The more experienced people in the hobby, the people that have been investing and collecting sealed product for a longer amount of time, we could see the writing on the wall. We could see that it is very unlikely to drop below $100, and even if it does for a very short amount of time, I think that even now buying in at $100 is still one of the best things that you can do right now in sealed Pokemon. The last sold on eBay UK is £115. While I'm on that point, just before I move on, I am being positive. I am not being negative towards any other content creators. I get it. They're all doing their own thing. I just want to say that me personally, I have made a very conscious effort, not just in my content, but just in my life in general, to just be more positive about everything, and to just, when people are being negative or having different opinions to me, just let it go. That's okay. And the more I've been thinking about that the last few weeks, I've really seen an impact in my life as well. And I just want to say things are going well for me right now. I'm feeling more positive than ever, and life is good. So smile, people. Things aren't so bad. Maybe they are bad in your life, but just try and crack a smile. It will change your life. Let's then move on to Surgeon Sparks. Enough of my psychiatry sessions. I might be qualified to talk about Seal product, but I'm definitely not qualified to talk about mental health. Let's then talk about Surgeon Sparks. Surgeon Sparks, $251 last week. It has gone up a little bit in price. It is now at that $260 mark. That is where I think it should be, because last week I made a comment, Journey Together and Surgeon were both like $250. I was like, Journey Together is probably a little bit overpriced. Surgeon's a little bit underpriced. I put Surgeon as a better set than Journey Together. They're both sort of in that same sort of print window block as well. I think you'll start to see Surgeon Sparks start to pull away over the next year as it gets closer and closer to going out of print. Now, it's not going out of print anytime soon, but as it gets later into its print life, it gets less and less likely to get reprinted, and it gets less and less, not just likely that it gets reprinted, but just the volumes, the chance of getting a huge reprint get less and less. I do think you will see some more reprints of Surgeon Sparks, but I don't think it's going to affect the price that much. $260 I think is a very fair price for it at the moment. If not a little bit undervalued. I'd say it's one of my top 5 sets of Scarlet and Violet. I'm putting it more towards the higher end of Scarlet and Violet. Given enough time, once it's out of print, I think that it will do pretty well. I think that long term, within a year, 2 years, that kind of time horizon, once it gets to that out of print sort of window time, I think that it's going to start having quite a decent steady run up to around about $500. Might take 3 years for it to get there. It really might take that long. Might take a lot less. But does it really matter if we're buying in at this price point at $250? Does it really matter if it takes 2 years or 3 years? I'm happy to put away Surgeon Sparks for 6 years, 7 years, 10 years. That kind of thing. Those are the kind of time horizons that I'm looking at for sets that I really enjoy. Sets that are just like a good deal at the moment, like stuff like Journey Together and stuff like that, I'm less likely to hold that for a much longer time horizon, like your 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. I'm more likely to do a double up on that in 2 years, 3 years, and then be happy to sell it. Whereas stuff like Surgeon Sparks, I prefer the set, so I'm happy to hold it onto it longer. That's just how I do things. Like I said, do things however you want to do things. It's your money. It's your product. If you've got the product, you've got the power. Make sure you subscribe down below to never miss an opportunity. Last sold eBay US, $250. I think it's a decent buy-in at this price point. Last sold in the UK, 240 quid, new listing tag. Like we say with the new listing tags, if you're watching every week to a video like this and you know your prices, you know the market, you see these things go up as a deal for 240, it's an instant buyout. You can be that person jumping on it and get that new listing tag and just buy it out straight away as it's listed, because you don't have to do that research. You know that that's a good price point to buy in. Because look, another new listing, same day, 260, an extra 20 quid, same day, and that was bought out instantly as well. Bear in mind though, that 260 box, that is an absolutely minty box. These are the kind of products that I like to buy. I like to buy your really, really minty boxes. Look at how nice and tight that seal is as well. Absolutely lovely. That's the kind of thing I aim for when I'm buying sealed product, particularly when it's after its release date. If I'm buying from the secondary market, if I'm paying a premium, I will pay 10% over market, 15% over market to get the mintier box. Because in the long term, when it hits 500 a box, 600 a box, it really doesn't matter that I've paid that extra $20, $30, 20 quid, 30 quid. Because it's still gone up a massive amount, and you could charge the premium on the back end. Your product is more desirable because you have the mintiest one. They're easier to sell, they're more liquid to sell if they're in a great condition. Condition is everything. And if you've got rips or tears in booster boxes, it's not an issue, okay? it's just a little bit harder to sell for market price. But if you're willing to drop it down because of the damage, I always say about 10% for some small nicks or tears on it. If you drop it down 10%, it will sell. So don't worry too much if you do have nicks or tears on your sealed product. But if you haven't bought it yet and you're buying product, me personally, I don't have a problem paying a little bit over market price to get a beautiful minty box like this. Credit to that person, they've really looked after it. Although only 6 seller rating, I would have a look at their feedback first. It is all 100%, but I'd see what they've been selling, if they've even sold anything as well. eBay generally has your back when you are a buyer. I also sell a lot on eBay as well. eBay's got your back as a seller too, but more so as a buyer. You are protected. You can get a refund if things aren't right when they're shipped to you. But just be cautious about people who have like under 10 feedback and stuff like that. Just because, yes, we all do start somewhere, but you're buying quite an expensive item there, and that 6 feedback might be from them just buying stuff. They might have just been buying a few iPhone cases or something like that, or some batteries, or who knows. They might not have any experience as a seller. Just be cautious when you're spending a decent amount of money on sealed Pokemon product. To me personally, I buy from a more reputable source. Let's then move on and start talking about Twilight Masquerade. Twilight Masquerade has been having a really good run over the last couple of weeks. It's continuing to print up in price. Go up in price because printing is becoming less and less likely as time goes on. It is at an all-time high and is continually steadily growing in price. Last week it was around about 291 on the average price point. It's now up to 318. Even that is quite a jump on its previous sale. 2 sales today. You've seen the price change live here. Look, since yesterday it was going for 300. Today it's going for 309, and then it's just sold just now for 318. So you're seeing live the price just go up. Let's see price then. 297 to 318. So that is a $23 price rise on 295. Let's calculate that out. 23, 295. 7.7% price rise over the last 7 days. 1% a day. That's not too bad. I think that Twilight Masquerade is going to have a very good next 12 months, and it will really start pushing up there in price. Again, one of my top 5 sets of Scarlet and Violet, towards the upper end, maybe even top 3 sets of Scarlet and Violet, really up there and continuing to climb. Last sold on eBay US from an auction actually is $295 from last night, and then there's a buy it now here for $295 as well. Interestingly, look at this. The ETBs, $70, $75. They're climbing up there in price, the ETBs. Pretty interesting to see. These were sat around for retail or below retail on shelves at around about release and a little bit after release. I picked up 3 myself for retail price. I don't often buy ETBs of mainline sets, but I wanted to support my LCS when I went in, and they don't really always have, well, they rarely have booster boxes for sale. It's just how they run their business. That's completely fine. But they do quite often have ETBs for a decent price and around retail, so I ended up picking up a couple of those as well. So nice to see the ETBs going up in price as well. It's a positive sign when the other products around the booster boxes start to rise in price as well. Twilight Masquerade is still in print technically as well. It's just a really good indication that the set will continue to do well long term. Last sold in the UK, new listing tag, buy it now, 234 quid. Another buy it now, both from today, 225 all in with postage. Just looks a bit cheap for me. Long term, $500, $600 box, easy, given a couple of years. I'd put it on the level of Brilliant Stars, Silver Tempest, that kind of thing. Once they've had the same amount of time on release, I think they'll perform similar. We'll talk about both of those sets later on in this episode as well. We tend to kind of not do them exactly in release order, but we tend to do like the newest products to going back a little bit further as we go on through the episodes. Paradox Rift then, climbing up in value. We recently had a lot available for retail price here in the EU. That supply is finally starting to dry up now. So we are seeing prices rise on both sides of the pond now. Last week it was at 240. This week it's at 260. So quite an aggressive price movement up on Paradox Rift. At 260 for Paradox, really? I knock Paradox Rift a lot. I know a lot of people like Paradox Rift, and you can justify it all day long with why it's your favourite set, or the arts are so good and it will climb before temporal because it's in a different print window and block window, and you can get into so many different reasons to argue against me why Paradox Rift is a great investment and a great set. I've never said that it's a bad investment. In fact, I have said that it's a bad investment, and I do think it's a bad investment. If we objectively, and this will annoy some people because it doesn't matter what set you talk about, it's going to be someone's favourite set. Paradox Rift is one of the worst sets of Scarlet and Violet. It just is. That is a fact. I don't think the set is that bad art-wise. It's just one of the worst performing sets so far. And I think it will continue to be at that bottom end. So if it's going for $260 right now, that puts it at one of the more expensive Scarlet and Violet sets right now. That puts it more expensive than Surging Sparks. It puts it, well, right on the same. Me, personally, I think that Surging Sparks is a much better set than Paradox Rift. Yes, you can say, I'm leaving myself open to some hate in the comments here, because there are a lot of fanboys of Paradox Rift and they love Paradox Rift. Great. Like I said, it's your money. It's your product. If you believe in Paradox Rift and you think that 260 is a good price for it right now, by all means buy into it. By all means, I do think it will go up in price long term. I think there's just better places for you to put your money. For $260, personally, I would rather buy 2 prismatic ETBs right now and have some change rather than a Paradox Rift booster box. But that's just me personally. 260 puts it at the upper end now of Scarlet and Violet boxes. $20 price rise over the last 7 days. Let's calculate that out. Let's be fair to it. Let's run the numbers. 8.3% price rise over the last 7 days. Looks a bit overpriced to me personally. I think it should be closer to around about that 240 range. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not right all the time on everything. Temporal Forces. I much prefer Temporal Forces as a set than Paradox Rift. Personally, I just prefer some of the chase cards in it. It is technically in a later block, so it's more likely to get reprints, and you can get into the semantics of it, but at the end of the day, if you're buying Paradox or Temporal at the moment, you're holding it for the long term, more than likely. Temporal Forces, I actually hold quite a decent amount. I don't own any Paradox for the reasons that I've just stated. I actually do own quite a bit of Temporal Forces. Temporal Forces, it's funny because I said in a previous video a week or two ago that it is a bad set as well, and it is at the lower end of Scarlet and Violet, and someone got really mad at me in my comment section saying I don't know anything and I should really buy some Temporal. Full disclosure, Temporal Forces is actually one of my biggest positions in the Scarlet and Violet era. I own more boxes of Temporal Forces than... yeah, I own more Temporal booster boxes than... do I actually? No, I own more Destined Rivals than anything else. But Temporal Forces is probably my second biggest position in booster boxes right now. Yeah. So just be aware that even if I insult a set or I say that it's a bad long-term investment or something like that, that doesn't mean that I don't hold it. It just means that right at this second, I think that there's better things for you to put your money in. The reason why I hold a lot of Temporal Forces is because I got them for below retail. Temporal and Paradox were both selling for below retail here in the UK for a long time. Like over a year, you could pick them up for below retail. Picking up okay sets that are fairly decent, you know, mid to lower mid, But for below retail, if it's a good deal, I will pick it up still. I quite like Temporal Forces. It's not too bad. I don't like Paradox Rift, but that's fine. You can like it too. Don't roast me in the comments if it's your favourite set. We're going to circle back to that at the very end of this episode, because we're going to talk about another set that is quite unpopular in the hobby, in the Sword and Shield era, and we'll link back to this conversation a little bit later on in the episode and you'll see what I mean. But let's move on. Temporal Forces, $242 last week, going up there in price. $245, a sale there for $260, a couple of sales for $260. People aren't really sure on it at the moment. It's sitting right there, like I said, at that sort of middle pricing of Scarlet and Violet box, at around about that $240 to $245 range. I don't think it's an awful buy for that price point, but you just need to be aware that a lot of people in this hobby, well, not a lot of people in this hobby, because sealed collectors are actually a very small portion of this hobby, but a lot of sealed collectors have a lot of Temporal Forces that they're sat on that they bought for a much lower price point than this. So just be aware of that if you're buying in at this $240, $250 range to Temporal or Paradox. A lot of us hold a decent amount of it that we bought for a lot cheaper. So just be aware of that. Let's then talk about 151. 151 is a fantastic set. It's absolutely chonking up the charts with the chunky boy Snorlax. $351 last week on the average price point for the ETB. TCG is being a bit weird here. So TCG is saying last two sales are $300. I don't believe that those are legitimate sales from today. I think that is a little bit of price manipulation on TCG Player. I don't think that those sales will actually complete, because if you look at all of the sales from yesterday, we're up at 440, 420, 440, like a lot more than those two sales. So I'm going to ignore those two $300 sales, and instead we're going to look at eBay, because eBay is usually a better sign of what's going on when things are going weird on TCG Player. So last week it was at 351. Last sales on eBay, 400. That's more in line with what I expected. A decent increase in price still. So let's calculate that out. So 351 to 400, basically $50. 50 divided by 351, 14% price rise on the averages for 151. Just not only is it steadily going up in price, it is now starting to go a little bit parabolic and go a little bit nuts. I think that people are really FOMOing into 151 pretty hard now, and I love the fact that they are, because I own quite a lot of 151. I own a lot of bundles. I own one ETB. I've got some slabs as well. If you're interested what I'm buying, I don't post everything, but particularly on stuff like slabs and singles and stuff, which I don't buy often. I buy mainly sealed products for obvious reasons, as I'm a sealed collector. But I also do collect singles and slabs of stuff that I like. If you're ever interested in what I'm buying, like I said, I don't post everything, but add me on Instagram. I quite often post singles and slabs that I've bought at PokePond1. If you're interested in that kind of thing. Yeah, 151, good buy at the moment. Particularly the booster bundles are a good buy. They're shooting up in price at the moment, because I do feel that some people are starting to get priced out of the ETBs a little bit. But yeah, $400 last sold. Last sold in the UK, 332 quid on an auction, 333 on an auction. PC ETB's just gone nuts. 822 quid. Which is over $1,000, I believe. Should we calculate it out? What is that? 822 GBP to USD. That's got to be over $1,000. Yeah, $1,110 at the current exchange rate that we are currently paying for a PC ETB of 151. Absolute madness, in my opinion. Let's talk about Paldean Fates then, while we're on the holiday sets. Paldean Fates is increasing in price as well. $237 last week, up to $270 now. Multiple sales around $270 to over 7 sales, which means for those people that have been subscribed a while, 7 price points does indicate a trend or a breakout. And that is common across data analytics for all businesses. I am a data analyst or data scientist by trade, so I can confirm that 7 price points does indicate a breakout in price, which is what we're seeing here. So what was it? 270. Last week, 237. So what's that? 63. 63 divided by, what was it? 237? 26% price point? No, surely I didn't calculate that out right. Brain is not braining today. 237 to 270. 270 to, minus 237. Bear with me, it's still early in the morning. 33 divided by 237. There we go, that's better. I knew I'd done some maths wrong. 13.9% price rise on Paldean Fates this week. Really starting to increase in price now. Let's then talk about Paldea Evolved. Paldea Evolved is an interesting one because I've actually sold another box of Paldea Evolved this week. And you might say, oh, PokePond, why are you selling your Paldea Evolved? You sold some a few months ago as well. Yes, I did. And it's my product. I have the power. I will sell it at whatever price point I would like to sell it for. Paldea Evolved is one of the better sets of the Scarlet and Violet era. The reason why I am selling Paldea Evolved and continue to sell Paldea Evolved is because I would much rather take some profit on the table right now and roll that into some of the new products that are coming out, like Phantasmal Flames and stuff, so that I can buy more of that kind of thing and more sets that I want to have in my collection without having to spend money out of my pocket. I'm just rolling money back into it. I've sold quite a few Paldea Evolved over the last couple of months. Paldea Evolved I bought into for a very cheap price point. I bought into it for an average price of around about 180 to 190 pound. So I'm selling them anywhere from like 320 to right up there to like 330 at the moment. So I've done very well out of that. Do I think Paldea Evolved will continue to run and do really well long term, and probably long term go up to over 1,000 a box? Yes, but for me it makes sense to take some profit right now and roll that into Mega Evolutions and Phantasmal Flames. Just my personal thing that I want to do with my collection. I still own some Paldea Evolved, so don't panic. I still own a little bit of it. But yeah, full transparency, that's what I've sold recently. And that's the only thing that I've sold recently is Paldea Evolved. Interestingly, I sold quite a bit of it a month or two ago, and it was up to around about £300 then. And I listed a few for 300 and sold them, but I also put a few in for around about that 320, 330 range. That's kind of a nice thing you can do with eBay if you aren't that worried about selling it quickly. I put in the price that I wanted for it, and then when it eventually just gets to that price it will sell. It sat on there for about a month because the price dipped down in the UK. It dipped down to around about 260 for no apparent reason. Actually, I think it went as low as 240 from like 300. I don't know why it did, but I just kept it on there for like 320, 330, and it's sold over the last couple of weeks now. It's bounced back up there. So there you go. Don't always have to panic sell. Sometimes time is in your favor if you don't need a quick sale. $400 last week in the US, now up to 446. Decent price point rise. 46 on 400. 11.5 exactly on the dot price rise over the last 7 days on Paldea Evolved. When you look at the averages, last sold on eBay US $439, another one going for $420. Looking at this as well, is that an AI generated image of Paldea Evolved? There's no way that that is a real image of Paldea Evolved. We need to investigate this further because I'm really curious. That is an AI image, right? Of Paldea Evolved, or is that just, yeah, look, it couldn't work it out. It's an AI image. It's messed up the Scarlet and Violet thing, and then it's written Paleaway Ayola. I knew that was an AI image. It just looked so weird. Why would you use an AI image to sell? Look, it's messed up the Pokemon stuff on the side. That is fascinating. That is the first time I've ever seen an eBay listing of a Pokemon box, and they didn't even use it. Like, if you're going to do this, use the stock image. I mean, I still think that using the stock image is stupid anyway. You should use the actual product image, unless you're like a storefront and you're selling like 500 of them, so they're all going to be slightly different anyway. Then you can use the stock image. But I always say take a photo of it if you're just selling one, especially if you're charging this kind of a premium. But an AI image of the box is so bizarre. Is that something eBay offers now? They can just do an AI image? Or did this person go out of their way to, instead of get a stock image off of Google, Sorry, I'm amazed and confused why you would ever do this. And look at this. It's done it like so wrong. Play Pokemon. Pro line. 4 line. It's just so bizarre. It's like the AI it's like someone did a watercolor of it, but they just did it a little bit wrong. This is so bizarre. Sorry, super got distracted here, but what? Why? Answer down below. Why? Is that a new thing on eBay? Will eBay offer to generate you an AI image of it? Anyway, last sold in the UK. £343, right up there at an all-time high. Like I said, this dropped down to about 260, 240 for a couple of weeks ago for no reason. It was at 310, dropped down to like 240, 260. You could have bought in at that price point. You could have bought more of it. If I wasn't actively selling it, I would have bought more when it dropped, because it dropped for no reason. Like, zero reason it dropped down. But again, if you're subscribed to a channel like this, I'll keep you up to date with all the prices. You would have known that it had dipped, and I would have commented that, and you would have seen that, and you could have had an opportunity to move in on it. But yeah, very bizarre, and now it's right back up there to all-time highs. Let's now move on to the big boys, the king of the jungle, Evolving Skies. Evolving Skies is last sales on TCG Player, a couple of sales at $2,700, another one at $2,750. We tend to not do percentage price point changes on Evolving Skies now on TCG Player, just because sales are so infrequent once you get to this kind of price level. Instead, we just look straight at the eBay and the last solds. Last solds on eBay US, we actually have 2 sales from yesterday, both with buy it nows, both new listing tags as well, so bought out instantly. 2 minty copies here sold yesterday, so a very good indication that that is where market price is at. Both selling for the $2,600 range. One for $2,600 from Texas, and one from what's IN? I don't know my states that well. Is IN Illinois? Is that a state? I don't know. No, Indiana. It's got to be Indiana, right? American people down below, did I get it right? 26.45. Right up there at all-time highs. We might have seen a few sales creep over. I think we've seen, have we seen a $2,800? Something like that, around about that price point. But to see 2 sell over $2,600 is a really, really positive sign. I've been calling for a while now. Well, we've been calling since the start of the year that it'll be a 2K box by Christmas. We're easily past that now. And to be honest, Evolving Skies, no one can ever predict what's going on with the price, because it always performs better than whatever people predict. So looks like we're going to get closer to 3K a box by Christmas. Not necessarily market price at 3K, but at least one sale right up there at that $2,900 range. I think it's coming. And given a few more months, I think it will hit that. Just very interesting to see. Last sold in the UK, 2,050. That's kind of crazy that we're seeing multiple sales now over 2k here in the UK. Very positive to see, very strong price for Evolving Skies at the moment, and right up there at the all-time highs. It's touching its all-time highs and holding. It's in a position where it could just continue to run, and I do think it will continue to grow over the next couple of years. Let's talk about Crown Zenith then. Crown Zenith is the last holiday set of the Sword and Shield era, and it's having a really good move this week. It is shooting up there in price again. You can see on the price chart it's starting to just go a little bit vertical over this last 7 days. Went from $187 to 220 with multiple sales over 220, around about that 222 range. I love the number 222. I don't know why. It's just a nice number to see. It's satisfying to see. Anyway, 187 last week to 222. Let's calculate that out. So quick maths, that is $33. 33 on 187. Ooh, Crown Zenith up 17.6% in 7 days. That is quite the price jump. If we have a look at eBay, it is still going for a little bit under $200. I've said since it was $100, and it was $100 not that long ago. It was $100 a few months ago, start of the summer. We were saying that Crown Zenith is one of the safest places to put your money for consistent, steady gains. And it's nearly doubled in price since I've been saying that. So it's now up there to last sale US $185. Let's try and guess some states again. UT. What would UT be? Utah. Yes. Love it. What's MI? MI Michigan. Yes. No? Is Michigan a state? Michigan's got to be a state. My geography's awful. We don't get taught this in school over here in the UK. But I did grow up with American TV. Second to last sold $177. Sorry. So you're seeing the price change quite a bit sale to sale between two sales yesterday. And then obviously TCG Player is pulling ahead. So maybe eBay will be $200 soon as well. Last sold in the UK, a little bit more expensive here, 212 quid now, really up there at that all-time high. Love Crown Zenith, great investment moving forward. Let's now talk about Fusion Strike. Fusion Strike is just doing insane things right now. When it had this big run up in price here, when it was like $700-800 at the start of August, we said it's not going to take much now for it to go to $1,000, and we're seeing that now. Last week it is let's see, last week it was $912. Last sold $1,100. So 912 to 1,100 is $188 price rise over the last 7 days from what was it, 912? 20% price rise on Fusion Strike over the last 7 days, and now over $1,000 on TCG Player. And if you look at the last two sales as well, it's up 10% between two sales. Kind of crazy. Volume is actually really low on TCG Player, so we'll have a look at eBay. On eBay, there you go, last sold $1,080. Okay, VA. What's VA? Oh, what state would be VA? Vancouver's Canada, right? So it can't be Vancouver. Where would VA be? What state is VA? I don't know. Down below, let me know what state is VA. I don't know all of them off the top of my head. Last sold in the UK, £797. Let's then have a look at Lost Origin. Lost Origin, still, it's having a good run, but I still think it's underpriced. If Fusion Strike is selling for $1,100, there's no way that Lost Origin should be selling for $839. It should be up there at $1,000 with it. I've said for a long time that Lost Origin should be no more than 10% or $100 behind Fusion Strike. So it just looks cheap. It's having a run up in price, but not as much as Fusion Strike. Why that is, I couldn't tell you. Perhaps you could I don't know, there's all sorts of reasons why it could be running up. It could be the case of Phantasmal Flames is coming out, so maybe more people are going to be focused on Gengar, possibly. Maybe that's a possible theory. I don't know. Lost Origin just looks a bit cheap to me at the moment, even at this increased price point. $787. Actually, $800 last week. 800 on the nose, now selling for $840, so that's a 5% price rise on that. Last sold on eBay US on an auction from yesterday for $760, and another one from yesterday for $810. So again, quite a variance in price there. FL, Florida, NY, New York. New York's a state, right? It's a new little fun game. It's because eBay's recently changed, so it started putting the locations on there. I like it. It's teaching me. Last sold in the UK, 700 quid, bought out straight away, new listing tag, and another one bought out straight away for 700. Let's then talk about Brilliant Stars. Brilliant Stars has been on a bit of a run recently. Partly because it's a good set and undervalued, partly because it's smashed through $500, so that it's not really got that much of a resistance point now to run up. It's smashed through that difficult point of getting through $500, which is a very psychological price point for buyers to go through. It's funny because TCG Player, it looks like it's flat on the chart, but when we actually run the numbers, let's have a look. It's gone from 514 to 540, but then the sale before 594. So the prices are all over the place on Brilliant Stars, but it's up a few percent. If you take that 540, that's about 3% price rise. But then if you take the sale before it, the 594, that's closer to like 7-8%, I think, off the top of my head. So yeah, Brilliant Stars just continuing to have a bit of a run. I think it will continue to as well. Last sold on eBay US, $500. Just looks cheap to me for that price point. Here's one with a torn seal, look, going for $429. So that's your price difference. Look, $80 price difference. So if you do have a tear, it is what it is. But just be prepared that you're going to be selling it a little bit cheaper, but it will sell if you put it on for that cheaper price point. Because someone will buy it to open it, or someone will buy it and not mind that it's got the tear in it. And if you bought it for much less than that, then it doesn't really matter. You've still done well out of it. Just take the loss, take the $40 off, $80 off of market price, and it will sell. It just won't sell if you're trying to charge the same price as a Minty box. It won't sell for 500 right now. It'll probably sell for 500 in a month's time, 2 months' time, when the price has gone up that little bit further and market's closer to 600. But it's something to be aware of in the sealed hobby. Be prepared if you have damages on it to drop the price a little bit. Last sold in the UK, $475. And when I talk about damages, I'm talking about like it being squashed on the corners and stuff like that. I'm talking about, the main thing though is rips or tears to the seal. As long as the seal is nice and tight, in good condition, and not got any rips and tears, it's basically perfect. You can charge market price for it. A lot of booster boxes as well have like the cutout on top as well, so you'll know this, that it can still be sealed and it can be pushed down, and basically like it has like a perforated edge on the top. If that like bends a bit or starts to separate, really doesn't affect price point that much. That is not really an issue at all. It's more about the seal on the product. But obviously try and keep it as nice as possible. If you're holding it, you'll have more chance of selling it for a higher price going forward. Silver Tempest is on a bit of a run as well, $441 up to $445. Not a huge price point change, but it's gonna do what Brilliant Stars did. It's gonna have that run up to $500. It's gonna struggle to get through there for a few weeks, and then it will move on past $500 in my opinion. So up a little bit. Nothing major to write home about though, but just steadily growing and increasing up to that $500 price point. Astral Radiance is at an interesting point as well. We were so happy to see it start to rebound up in price after it's been dropping a little bit. And we were really just trying to find where the floor of the market was, and I think the floor has been found now, because we're seeing another week now where it is just holding around this price point of around about 377 last week, and now it's up to 400. I think 400 is a really good floor price for it. And when we talk about floor price, if we zoom out, what happened here is it had a huge run up in price and a huge buyout at around about May time, when a lot of other Sword and Shield boxes got bought out as well. And then all we see is just a bit of price consolidation over the next few weeks to meet the real demand of where the price should be, which is around about $400, which is still way more than where it was down here when it was massively underpriced. The price just shot up because, you know, someone was just buying out all of them. So it went a little bit inflated, but then all-time high. 412 for 11, it's almost right up there again. It's at that $400 price point. I think that that's a fair price for it right now, if not a little bit undervalued. But then you look at like Astral Radiance at 400, Silver Tempest was what, around about 480, something like that, 445. I'd rather have a Silver Tempest for an extra $45. So to me personally, that just tells me that Silver Tempest is looking a little bit undervalued. I think that Astral is fine at 400 for now. It should probably even move up to 500, and then Brilliant Stars and Silver should push way up there and closer to around about that $700 range, while Fusion and Lost start pushing way over 1,000 and start their climbs up to $1,200, $1,500 price rise over the next sort of 12 months, I believe. Let's then have a little look at Chilling Reign. People get mad at me because they're like, oh, why didn't you talk about Chilling Reign this week? I'm sorry, guys. I'm talking about so many sets every single week. I can't cover every set every single week, otherwise I'd be here forever. What's going to happen when we start moving into new eras as well? I'm going to have to start adding on all these mega sets, and then when we go into Gen 10, I'm going to have to start talking about Gen 10 as well. The episodes are just going to get longer and longer, and I know some of you down below will be thrilled about that. Some of you enjoy watching these videos and listen to my lovely tones as I talk. But anyway, let's talk about Chilling Reign. Last week, $546, and this week, $570. So a little bit of a price rise. 3 sold for $570 actually as well. I don't think that's a bad play at that price point. Now we're at this stage in the market with Sword and Shield. I think that Chilling Reign could easily have a run up to $750, and I don't think it'll take long for it to get up there either. Almost definitely within the next 12 months, I think that it'll be pushing $750 to $800 a box, probably much sooner than that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with the market. To finish off, we're going to do one of my favourite things. We take eBay US. We filter to sold recently, so these are all sold this morning, and we only filter to new. And we just scroll through until we see a product that is interesting to talk about. And this is the one that we've come up with today. And it's pretty interesting in my opinion. So it is a Arrokuda Battle Styles Blister Pack from 2001. This came out, and it just sold on eBay US this morning for $5.99. Let's zoom into this bad boy. Now, blister pack. So we've got a pack, we've got a promo card, and we've got a coin in a nice sealed product. I like blister packs. They charge a bit of a premium for them. For $5.99. That is retail, if not below retail. Surely that's retail, right? $6 for a blister from back then, because I know they put it up in Scarlet and Violet. I know retail for a blister now is closer. Is it closer to $7 or $7.99? Something like that. Anyway, $5.99. I just thought this was very interesting because Battle Styles. Since the channel came out, I have insulted Battle Styles, and I have said that it is one of the worst sets of the Scarlet and Violet era. People get mad about that because, as I was saying earlier, when I was talking about Temporal Forces, when I was talking about especially Paradox of Rift, no matter what set you talk about, if you say that something is bad, some of your viewers, a small percentage of your viewers, that will be their favourite set, and or they have a different opinion to you, whether they're right or whether they're wrong, whether I'm right. or they're wrong. I'm wrong, they're right. You know what I mean. It doesn't matter. Some people are going to disagree with you. So it's very difficult when I insult a set, but Battle Styles is one of the worst performing sets of the Sword and Shield era. I actually took a small loss on Battle Styles. I pre-ordered an Elite Trainer box of Battle Styles for release back when it came out in 2021. It's mad thinking that was that long ago. I bought one of the blue ETBs because I thought that it looked cool. And back then, I was collecting sealed product and I was buying an ETB of everything. So, yeah, I was trying to get one ETB of every single Sword and Shield product. I don't do that kind of thing anymore, but back then that was one of the things I was doing. Anyway. Ended up selling the booster box for below retail for a loss, because after I had it a while and after the set wasn't performing well as well, I just realised that I hated it and I hate Battle Styles as a set and I don't want it in my collection. So I sold it for a loss. I think I paid like 55 quid for it on a pre-order, something like that, 50 quid for it. And I sold it for like 40 quid. And then I paid postage on it as well. So I think I took back like 35 quid. So really terrible investment. Left a bitter taste in my mouth. Really don't like Battle Styles anyway. But look at this. So many people loved Battle Styles. Even when I was talking on this channel nearly 2 years ago, I was saying how bad Battle Styles was. Even then, when it had been out for a while and everyone knew it was bad, people were still saying in my comments, no, Battle Styles is great, it will do so great long term. Well, here we go. Blister pack at or below retail price. How many years later? Yeah, March 19th, 2021 it came out. So 4.5 years ago. It's been out of print for over 2 years. And you can still get a blister with a promo, Port Aracuda, for below retail. Do I think that that's a good buy? I actually think that is a pretty good buy. I wouldn't buy it myself because for me it's not all about the money. I like to have stuff in my sealed collection that I enjoy, and that's why quite often I will sell stuff at times when people think that I shouldn't sell stuff, because maybe I don't have that same emotional attachment to it that I like. Because at the end of the day, it's not all about the money for me. I am a sealed collector. I'm not just a sealed investor. Sometimes the collection comes first for me. So I wouldn't buy something like this because I wouldn't want this piece of Battle Styles in my collection. Ugh, yuck. I feel like it would tarnish my collection. But I just thought it was really interesting that this late on, after its print cycle, after its release, you can still pick this up for retail. Someone's taken a massive L on that one, but someone, you know, will probably do well with that. Yes, it will have postage on it. Ignore the $16 postage. That's estimating international shipping to ship it to me in the UK from KY. Where's KY? KY. Kansas? Is Kansas a state? I don't know. That shows how awful my geography is. But for those of you laughing in the US, do you know our counties in the UK? Could you guess them from 2 letters? Maybe not. Anyway, ponder on that one. PokePonder. Ooh. Make sure you subscribe down below to never miss an opportunity. Please do hit the like button if you enjoyed this at all, or you just want to support me. It costs you nothing. It helps promote my content and push it out there further. Have yourselves a wonderful day. Good luck trying to get some pre-order stuff, and peace.